We're back here on HQ Spotlight, where I just had to rub my contacts to make sure I was seeing these AFC West standings and odds to win the division correctly. It's just so crazy to see the Chiefs there at 2-3, third in the standings with the third best odds to win the division behind the leading Chargers and Broncos. So now that we're at week 6 of the NFL season, let's work through our biggest questions surrounding these teams in the AFC West. To help us do it, we welcome back to the show Tyler Sullivan. Tyler, let's begin with the biggest question right now surrounding those 3-2 Chargers.
Yeah, right now, did Justin Herbert fool us again? Because I totally took the cheese. I was like, okay, what I saw over the first 2 weeks, he's an MVP candidate. The Chargers are going to win the division, and they might even mess around and win the Super Bowl. They've come back down to earth a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and you can see here the interceptions have really been the story. With part of that 0-2 skid here. 3 interceptions over the last 2 games. That's not Justin Herbert. You got to remember, last year I think he threw 4 interceptions for the entire year, but we got to the playoffs, and that's where the interceptions started to really rear their head. And so I wonder here with Justin Herbert, yes, of course, the Chargers have been dealing with a number of injuries, particularly on the offensive line. Marion Hampton also went down, so their running game has taken a serious hit. But to me, I get a little bit of uneasiness here with Justin Herbert because of those turnovers. That's been his strength through the first couple of weeks and through the regular season last year, and what was their undoing was him being a little sloppy with the football. So I don't think we're going to learn anything this week because, again, the Miami Dolphins, not a great football team, not a great secondary that they have to worry about. But I think the real answer will be in week 7 and in week 8 when they play the Indianapolis Colts and the Minnesota Vikings at home. 2 defenses that should give him some tests. The Minnesota Vikings, they really love to pressure the quarterback. They send blitzes all the time. They face them on a short week. If he can kind of stabilize through those games, I think we can calm some nerves a little bit in terms of their long-term future. But these last 2 games have kind of given me flashbacks of that 4 interception game from last postseason.
All right, sounds like we'll have to wait a few more weeks to get that answer to your burning question. Until then, the Chargers in South Florida this weekend for a 1 o'clock kick against Miami. Let's get to the Broncos now. In London this week, coming off a big comeback win to the Eagles. It seems like they're just cruising. What's the one question you have, though, for them right now?
Yeah, I'll stick at the quarterback position because I think it's around Bo Nix. And what we saw in that comeback was what we all hoped Bo Nix would be going into year 2. He was much more efficient. And yes, of course, you're going to throw a lot more when you're in comeback mode. But in that fourth quarter in particular, $127 through the air, 12.7 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He really was lights out down the stretch to really mount that comeback against Philadelphia. And prior to that, was kind of just a middling quarterback, 18th in the NFL in EPA per dropback, so not necessarily, top 10 quarterback in the NFL type numbers or anything like that. But if this serves as a moment, and sometimes this is what it takes, right, in the NFL, where you have these crazy comebacks, it flips a switch and you can start kind of elevating yet again. If that's what this is for Bo Nix, and they start to really be a little bit more efficient on offense, I think that the running game with J.K. Dobbins has been really great. Evan Ingram as the tight end spot starting to pop. Obviously, Courtland Sutton as their wide receiver number 1. If they start to really get in front of things here with Bo Nix, that's only going to help this defense continue to dominate. If they can build up leads and they put the opposing offenses in pass-heavy situations, they have the number 1 pass rush in the NFL. Whether it's sacks, quarterback pressures, hurries, you're really going to play into your strength if all of a sudden Bo Nix starts to put up points early. So I'm curious, did that fourth quarter turn the switch here for Bo Nix in this offense? If so, the Broncos could go on a run.
Yeah, curious just how high this offense can go. We'll find out hopefully soon. We got to get to the Chiefs now because I'm not sold. I know exactly who this team is right now. What are you asking yourself about KC, the week 6 of the season?
I'm right there with you, Jordan. I don't know if this team has actually turned a corner. Statistically, they would say yes. Over the last 2 games, north of 30 points, north of 400 total yards of offense, you would say, okay, the Chiefs are back. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they figured it out. But you actually watch the games and you go beyond the box score and you say, I still don't know who this team is. And you can even look at the standings here, look at the schedule here. The 2 wins on the season are the New York Giants that were then led led by Russell Wilson. They really couldn't move the ball offensively. And their other win on the season was the Baltimore Ravens, who have been ravished by injuries, and Lamar Jackson didn't even finish that game. When they're playing, fringe playoff teams, or if you want to call them playoff teams, they've lost. They're 0-3 in one-score games. So I really just don't know if this is a team that has actually turned things around. And I think that they might go to 2-4 this weekend going up against the Detroit Lions. I know they're currently favored by 2.5, but like I said, that's a one-possession game. They're 0-3 in one-possession games this season. So I have my questions about them. Now, it should be noted that after this week, they do get Rashee Rice back at the wide receiver spot. That can't be overlooked. So as much as it's been clunky offensively, they are getting a presumed number one wide receiver back after this week. But right now, it looks a little hairy on the offensive side of the ball.
Chiefs fans just in uncharted waters right now. I can't even imagine what they're feeling. Lastly, let's get to the Raiders, where obviously it's no secret that there are real questions around their quarterback situation right now, Tyler.
Yeah, and I wonder if Geno Smith makes it through the year as the starter. I think we're getting to a point now where we're really having a conversation of whether or not he should be benched, because you look at the numbers, it has not been pretty. 9 interceptions for Geno Smith this season. He threw 15 all of last season, so we're getting to a pace here where he's going well beyond that number. And you look at some other numbers too. 65 completion percentage. He completed 70% of his passes. That was a career high for Seattle last season. Those 9 interceptions, they've resulted in 35 points on the other side of the ball. On the next possession, those teams are not only just turning the ball over, but they are scoring points. And that is not conducive to winning football. The reason why Geno Smith was brought to Las Vegas, the reason why Pete Carroll was brought to Las Vegas, was to not take this team to a Super Bowl, not throw them into that pantheon of conversation, but it was to bring them to a respectable level at that position. And so far, in many respects, they're either the same than they were a year ago or worse. And that is not what you want. So I'm curious, does Kenny Pickett see time, who's currently their backup? Aiden O'Connell, he dealt with a fractured wrist in the final preseason game. He's currently on IR, but when he's eligible to come back, does that add another layer to this conversation? Because if Geno Smith continues to have multiple interception games, that's not a way to keep your job in the NFL. So again, he was brought here to be a starter, but I think he might end the year on the bench.
All right, we will leave it there. Tyler Sullivan, always great to see you here, breaking down the biggest questions when it comes to teams in the AFC West. Here's a look at the schedule for Week 6 of the NFL season. Can you believe that? How is it already here? We'll be drinking our tea and crumpets, watching that London 9:30 kickoff between the Broncos, who are just soaring right now. That offense against the Jets. Chargers, Dolphins, and the Titans and Raiders. Chargers and Dolphins, that game actually on CBS. Then we'll also see the Lions and Chiefs, who entered that game actually as a slight favorite. Interesting there.
A lot of injuries happening right now in Detroit, so we'll keep our eye on that. And we're keeping our eye on Baker Mayfield. He has been electric in the fourth quarter, but is it enough to get him to the postseason? We'll talk about it next.